Hello, everyone. My name is Kira Kuhn, and I am one of the health educators in the Health and Preventive Services Department at Sentara Health Plans, and I am so happy to be here with you today. Whether you are training for a marathon, have registered for a 5K for the first time, or you're simply thinking of walking more, I hope that everyone finds something meaningful today as we talk about both running and walking. Now, looking at running and walking is not comparing apples to apples, as there are a lot of differences between the two. But there's definitely so many benefits to both, and I am excited to discuss it with you all today. So, we're going to start off today by first going over the physical activity guidelines and benefits. We're going to compare running and walking as much as we possibly can. We're going to discuss techniques to prevent injury, explore types of feet and the shoes to fit those types of feet, and discuss ways to get started and stay motivated realistically in your life. All right. So the Health and Human Services, HHS, produces the physical activity guidelines for Americans to provide evidence based guidance that policymakers and health professionals can use to implement their programs, policies, and practices for increasing levels of physical activity and improving health. Basically, these guidelines say that when we move more, we have better cardiovascular health, we're stronger, and we're less susceptible to disease, and we feel better. The guidelines specifically for ages 18 to 65 years old for healthy adults state that healthy adults should participate in moderate intensity aerobic physical activity for a minimum of 150 minutes every week. Now, it's best to spread this out throughout the week, so that's most commonly broken down to about 30 minutes on 5 days per week. Or vigorous intensity aerobic activity for a minimum of 75 minutes per week. The difference between vigorous and moderate running is typically a vigorous exercise, while brisk walking tends to be more moderate intensity. As a rule of thumb, a person doing moderate intensity aerobic activity can talk but not sing during that activity. A person doing vigorous intensity activity can't really say more than a few words without pausing for a breath. In general, 1 minute of vigorous activity is equal to about 2 minutes of moderate intensity activity. Now, it's also important to note that every adult should also perform activities that maintain or increase your muscular strength and endurance for a minimum of 2 days per week. Now, cardio or aerobic exercise is anything that gets you breathing harder and your heart beating faster. We know that any amount of physical activity can have health benefits. The benefits are numerous, and you can read on the screen a number of them here. In addition to these, new evidence supports that physical activity can have immediate benefits. One single episode of physical activity can reduce anxiety and blood pressure and improve quality of sleep and insulin sensitivity. Physical activity helps to manage even more health conditions than we knew before. For example, physical activity can decrease pain for those with osteoarthritis, reduce disease progression for hypertension and type 2 diabetes, reduce symptoms of anxiety and depression, and improve cognition for those with dementia, multiple sclerosis, ADHD, and Parkinson's disease, to name a few. And physical activity helps to prevent even more chronic conditions than we knew before. Physical activity has long term benefits such as improved brain health, reduced risks of 8 different types of cancer: bladder, breast, colon, endometrium, esophagus, kidney, lung, and stomach, reduced risk for fall related injuries in older adults, and reduced risk of excessive weight gain. These benefits are in addition to the other long-term benefits that have been well known since the first edition of the physical activity guidelines, like preventing heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and breast and colon cancer. Now, healthcare professionals often recommend walking as an easy way for relatively inactive people to ease into better health. And it really is all about getting up and moving then moving more. There was a team from the NIH, the National Institutes of Health, and the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, that conducted a long term study using data from people aged 40 or older who wore something called an accelerometer. That is a device that measures not only the number of steps, like your typical pedometer would, but also cadence, which is steps per minute, during their waking hours for a week. Researchers then collected information on deaths from this group for about a decade. They also tracked deaths specifically from cancer and heart disease. In their analysis, the researchers broke the groups into categories of how many steps they averaged for one day. One group was fewer than 4,000 steps per day, another was up to 8,000 steps per day, and another was 12,000 or more steps per day. They compared the risk of death over the decade among the three groups. They also tested whether step intensity, measured by the cadence, was associated with better health. What they found was, compared with people who took 4,000 steps a day, those who took 8,000 steps a day had a 50% lower risk of dying from any cause during the 10-year period. People who took 12,000 steps a day had a 65% lower risk of dying than those who only took 4,000 steps. These benefits were consistent across age, sex, and race groups. These findings are consistent with current recommendations that adults should move more and sit less throughout the day. Taking 4,000 or fewer steps a day is considered a low level of physical activity. A goal of 10,000 steps a day is commonly cited, but studies have shown that health benefits accrue even if fewer than 10,000 steps are taken daily. It should be kept in mind that there is no one size fits all solution when it comes to step counts and health. While many people can achieve significant health benefits by walking less than 10,000 steps per day, every person's particular activity needs will differ depending on so many factors. So, the bottom line of all of this is not to get caught up necessarily in your number of steps, but move more and sit less. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the major differences between running and walking. First, the difference in foot strike. When you walk, your heel strikes first and you have one foot on the ground at all times. When you run, however, you're in the air during each stride. With running, each time you land, you typically land on the mid or front part of your foot. Your body absorbs the impact of about 3 times your body weight. And this is called ground reaction force, which is defined as the force exerted by the ground on the body in response to the force exerted by the body on the ground. So, some physics there. The greater the ground reaction force, the greater the wear and tear on your body. So, looking at this chart here, we see that walking has a ground reaction force of 1.5 times your body weight, whereas running has a ground reaction force of 3 times your body weight. So, more wear and tear when running. Running burns more calories than most other types of exercise because it requires many different muscles to work together. High intensity running, like sprints, intervals, hill runs, long distance running, can continue to burn calories long after a workout due to this quote unquote afterburn effect. Since walking is less vigorous than running, you'll have to walk longer or more often to get the same calorie burn benefits. So, running is more efficient in terms of calorie burn, but it has a higher risk of injuries, mostly due to that higher ground reaction force, and you'll need more time to heal if you get injured. This chart shows the approximate number of calories spent per hour by a 100, 150, and a 200-pound person doing a particular activity. Just a note, you do need to burn approximately 3,500 calories to lose 1 pound. So when you're looking at these, if someone's looking at weight loss or exercise for weight loss specifically, that is something, to keep in mind. But just taking a quick look here, running at 10 miles an hour, so say you go out, that's running at a good pace. That's going out for a 30-minute run and doing 5 miles in that. That's not your average runner, everyday runner, but you're burning 850 calories there in an hour if you're 100 pounds. Let's look at the 150-pound column here. Jumping rope, I don't know about you, but if you've ever jumped rope in your adult years, you realize it's not quite as easy as you maybe remember it as a child. So quite a workout, 750 calories burned in an hour if you're 150 pounds. And then going down the list, running but a little bit slower, swimming, those are, in the 500 to 550 range. We have walking, biking, we have tennis singles. So tennis singles, you don't have a partner, so you're definitely running around that court. So, nothing that you need to get stuck on these particular numbers. Of course, these are averages, but good to be able to see the types of exercise and the types of calorie burn and compare those across each other. All right, so let's talk about getting more out of your walk. Turning your normal walk into a fitness stride requires good posture and purposeful movements. And there are ways to help you get more bang out of your buck, so to speak, when you are going for your walk in terms of your fitness and calorie burn. So, ideally, here's how you're going to look when you're walking. Your head is up, you're looking forward, not at the ground. Your neck, shoulders, and back are relaxed, not stiffly upright. You're swinging your arms freely with a slight bend in your elbows. A little pumping with your arms is okay. Your stomach muscles are slightly tightened and your back is straight, not arched forward or backward. You're walking smoothly, rolling your foot from heel to toe. Now, if you're looking to increase the intensity of your walk, there are things that you can do. You can swing your arms, bending your arms at 90 degrees and swinging your arms naturally as you walk. Swinging them more vigorously encourages you to walk faster. It's also going to give your upper body more of a workout. So you're going to burn about 5 to 10% more calories that way. Try incline walking. If you walk on a treadmill, consider increasing the incline by about 5 or 10%. If you walk outdoors, look for hills or maybe even a steep driveway to make your walk more challenging. Water walking. You can do this in the shallow water at the beach or in a pool. The resistance of the water increases the intensity of your walk but lessens impact on your joints. Weighted vest. This adds intensity but doesn't strain your shoulders and wrists like ankle or hand weights would do if you're using those to walk. Pick a weighted vest that's 5 to 10% of your body weight. Interval walking. You can alternate periods of brisk walking with leisurely walking. And walk in a group. Walking with friends or family can make it more fun. It can also help you stick to your exercise plan. And if you are talking while you're walking, but you're keeping up the pace, then you're increasing your cardio with that as well. All right, risk of injury. Researchers say that runners and others who do high impact exercise are more likely to get injured than walkers. That more wear and tear due to that ground reaction force, right? But it's hard to say exactly how much higher the risk is. Various studies have found that between 20 and 80% of runners get hurt while running, so that's a huge range. However, specific to osteoarthritis, which occurs when the cushion between your bones, that's the cartilage, wears down and your joints get painful and swollen, studies have shown that runners actually have a lower risk. Because it's more strenuous, you might think that running would increase your risk of osteoarthritis, but a large study of runners and walkers found that the runners actually had a lower risk of hip replacement and osteoarthritis than the walkers. Researchers said this may be because, on average, the runners had a lower body mass index, so BMI, than the walkers, and less body weight means less stress on your bones, less of that ground reaction force, right? Now, of running injuries, it is true that about 80% are considered overuse injuries. Some of the most common ones are runner's knee, Achilles tendonitis, shin splints, plantar fasciitis, stress fractures, and IT band syndrome. The good news is that many of those overuse injuries, they can be prevented. And the best ways to prevent injury really are not that hard and are something that most people really can do regularly. First and foremost, wear proper footwear. Your foot should fit snug in the heel with a little wiggle room around your toes. To guarantee the best fit, you want to get a proper fitting at a specialty running store and wear your normal running socks when you go. But it's not enough to buy the right shoes. You also need to maintain them properly. So the recommendation is to replace your shoes about every 400 to 600 miles. That's if you're running regularly, that's about every 6 months. Improve your flexibility. One of the best ways to prevent an injury for any sport is to keep your bones loose and limber. To do this, add flexibility exercises into your routine. The more flexible your body is, the more range of motion you have, and the less injury prone you become in life in general, right? Yoga is a great way to improve your flexibility. It can enhance your balance and flexibility. It can leave you feeling calmer and more mentally focused. On our Sentara Health Plans My Life, My Plan page, we have updated yoga videos that you can try out for no cost and in the comfort of your home. So at the end of this presentation, I'll share the link for that. Incorporate strength training into your routine. That was part of the physical activity guidelines, right? The stronger your muscles are, the less likely they're going to break down. Strength training can help you increase your muscle tone, your strength, your endurance, your bone density. We have an interactive online program regarding strength training that I'm going to ask that we will. I'll also share with you at the end of where you can access that. Warm up, stretch, cool down, and stretch again. When we're seated, many of our muscles contract or shorten because of the position. But during running, the muscles are stretched. If the shift from sitting to running is done too quickly, there is a risk for injury. Basically, a pre stretched muscle can handle and resist stress better than an unstretched one. But just stretching cold muscles really isn't going to help you, and it can, in fact, harm you. So instead, you'll want to warm up and then stretch. Warming up allows our muscles to warm up and then slowly stretch. Cooling down. During exercise, the heart rate rises to deliver oxygen to the muscles. So, cooling down allows the heart rate to gradually decrease and return to normal. Cooling down may look like a slow jog if you are running or walking on the treadmill after briskly walking. An after exercise stretch. So, after a vigorous run, muscles are full of lactic acid. This is a chemical your body produces when your cells break down carbohydrates for energy. Stretching helps the blood flow to the muscles to remove the lactic acid, which improves recovery. Stretching after a run or a brisk walk can also help to relax any muscles that may have gotten tight from exertion, and this can help to prevent pain, stiffness, and injury later. Build strength and endurance gradually. Always take it slow when you're starting out. If you're training for a 5K for the first time, you're not going to run that distance on your very first day of training. Start with shorter runs and gradually increase your distance over the course of several weeks. Check in with your healthcare team. Before you start training, if this is the first time you're doing something like this, check in with your doctor to discuss any possible limitations or concerns that they may have or you may have. And finally, last but not least, listen to your body. No one knows your body better than you do. If you're feeling sluggish or run down, it's best to skip training that day, or you may need to reduce the time or distance you were originally planning to run or walk. Rest is critical. Taking time off from running each week to help avoid injuries and fatigue that can occur when you push too hard will be worth it. Now, one of the best prevention techniques is investing in a good shoe that is specific to you. Wearing the correct shoe is a critical way that runners and walkers can safeguard themselves from injury and other weird issues. Feet have been called the gateway to the rest of the body, which I love. When shoe pain prevents you from walking as you normally would, you would put yourself at risk to some of the injuries you saw on the previous slide, as well as back pain, blisters, and more. But unfortunately, about 72% of people worldwide wear ill fitting shoes, most of them too narrow or too small. To find the best shoe for you, you need to know first and foremost what your foot type is and what type of shoe best supports your arch in your running or walking style. When you run, and I am gonna a side note here that I'm going to move into when we're talking specifically about your type of foot here. This is mostly about your running form, but we will discuss walking shoes as well. When you run, however, you naturally land on the outside of your foot and roll inward. This inward rolling is called pronation. Pronation is the natural movement of the foot as it rolls inward. This movement absorbs shock by distributing the impact forces generated from the ground, that ground reaction force, right? So typically there's some splaying of your arch and some shifting of the ankle towards the inside. So that's normal. But too much of it can cause misalignment, as you can see with the image of the foot all the way on the left hand side of the screen. This is called overpronation. Underpronation is also called supination, and this is landing on the inside of your foot and rolling outward. This can also cause problems, and you would want to look for shoes that can best support you for that. The height of your arch affects the direction and severity of the way your foot rolls or how it pronates. Here are the three different types of arches and how they most likely roll. Your neutral arch typically causes the foot to roll to a healthy spot. A low or flat arch typically causes the foot to roll excessively inward or overpronate. So that image all the way on the left side of the screen. Your foot's typically flat in that situation. A high arch typically causes the foot to roll in only slightly at impact or outward, placing pressure on the outer toes. Now, many people whose feet overpronate or underpronate were born that way, but it can also result from injury, from overuse, or walking or standing on hard surfaces. Overpronation may also result from obesity or pregnancy. So, determining your foot type, take a look. This is an interesting tip, I think. Take a look at the bottom of your running shoe, and the wear on your shoe will likely reveal your foot type. If your shoe shows even wear, you have a neutral arch and are a normal pronator. It's important to note that truly most people do fall into this category. If the inner soles of your shoes are usually worn down, you are an overpronator and you probably have a low arch. If your shoe wear shows excessive wear on the outer soles, you are an underpronator or a supinator, and you probably have a high arch. So now that you know your foot type, it's time to find the right shoe. Running shoes are generally placed into three categories. These categories are not always clearly labeled on the shoe or box, so be sure to ask a salesperson or do your research online. Most brands do have this information on their website. Neutral shoes. These are best for runners with normal arches and only mild control problems. These shoes aren't going to affect your running form, also known as your gait, but they will provide you with added support and cushion to protect your feet from the ground. Stability are motion control shoes. They are great for those that have low arches or are flat footed and heavy runners who tend to overpronate or roll inward more than normal. These shoes have firmer midsoles that control the amount of pronation. Low arch runners generally are prone to overuse soft tissue injuries due to excessive foot pronation. The extra rigidity in these shoes prevents the heel from turning out and the foot from overpronating. Cushioning shoes support people with high arches and rigid feet who tend to overpronate or supinate. This highly flexible shoe is built on a curve and made of lightweight materials that provide minimal rigidity and a softer midsole. High arch runners are prone to bony type injuries like stress fractures due to higher loading rates from inadequate foot pronation. So those cushion shoes allow the foot to pronate or turn so your body can absorb the shock of your foot hitting the ground. Now, walking shoes are a bit of a different story. These shoes are generally more flexible, but also not as durable as a running shoe. Walkers are heel strikers, so finding a shoe that flexes across the entire foot is important. Now, of course, no two feet are alike. Generalizations about arch height can be made, but they're not hard and fast rules. So, for example, a runner can have a low arch, but still need a cushioned shoe. Generally, a rule of thumb is if you are trying on shoes and if you are, running around the store, which we'll talk about in a moment, if you are running without having to think about your shoe, you're not noticing anything strange about it, it's feeling pretty natural to you, that's typically a shoe that's going to work well for you. So, the best thing you can do as a runner and before you invest in running shoes is to get a gait analysis done, which is a simple running test that evaluates your running mechanics and form. A physical therapist or an exercise physiologist can perform this gait analysis and guide you in selecting the best shoe for you. Many running stores also provide some form of gait analysis or evaluation as well. So, how to get a proper shoe fit? Some tips here. Get size in the evening because your feet are actually longer at the end of the day. So you'd rather have a foot. You want a shoe that's going to be fitting you at all times of the day and not feel tight as the day is wearing on. Wear running socks when trying on shoes to ensure the proper fit. Wear what you're going to use to run. If you have any prescribed orthotics, bring those and put them in the shoe. You want to allow about a half inch between your longest toe and the end of your shoe. So roughly the width of your thumb. You want to stick right after your toe and make sure that it can fit in between your toe and the end of the shoe. And then take a test run in the store before purchasing. Now, making your shoes last. We talked about how it's not enough just to get the right running shoe, but you also want to maintain them. So this is going to help their longevity and decrease your risk of injury. Wear your running shoes only for running. Same for walking. Don't wear those fitness walking shoes for your everyday wear. Wearing them to play other sports or just, walking around at work or shopping um, can break down the motion control and the cushioning properties that you purchase them for. Now, this is something that I'm guilty of. Don't kick off your shoes without untying them. This is going to destroy the heel of the shoe. Avoid running in wet shoes. A wet midsole has about half of the shock absorption capability than it should when it's dry. So you can help dry out your shoes by sticking newspaper inside of them. Allow shoes about 24 hours to restore their absorption capabilities after running. The midsole needs time to restore its shape after wear and tear. Okay, so you have the best intention of getting going with a walking plan or maybe building up to a race of some sort. Maybe you're someone who starts and stops often, like life gets in the way. So let's talk through some tried and true tips that may help. First and foremost, set yourself up for success. Start with a simple goal, such as I'm going to take a 5 or 10 minute walk during my lunch break. When your 5 or 10 minute walk becomes a habit, set a new goal, such as I'll walk for 20 minutes after work. Find specific times for walks. Many times people find that mornings work the best because as the day goes on, there's likely going to be things that get in the way, right? Or you're tired, or enter whatever excuse. So many people find that getting up and doing it first before the day drama begins is the best way they can get it in. It's also a nice way to start your morning. Make walking enjoyable. If you don't like walking or running alone, ask someone to join you. If you're energized by groups, join a health club or a walking group. Running with a friend that challenges you can help keep you accountable and provide extra safety if you run during the early or late hours of the day. You might also like listening to music while you walk. Vary your routine. If you walk outdoors, plan several different routes for variety. If you often walk in your neighborhood, consider walking somewhere new. Maybe there's a park that you often drive by on your way home from work. Try taking routes with hills or stairs as you become used to walking more, or walk faster for a few minutes and then slow down for a few minutes and repeat that cycle. If you're walking alone, always tell someone which route you're taking. Walk in safe, well-lit locations. Sign up for events or races, maybe a 5K or a walk run for a charity that you support. These are fun to participate in. They give you something on the calendar to work towards. And once you participate in one, you'll likely be looking for more to sign up for. Take missed days in stride. If you find yourself skipping your daily walks, don't give up. Remind yourself how good you feel when you do include physical activity into your daily routine and then get back on track. So, going back to what we discussed in the beginning with the physical activity guidelines, we know that any amount of physical activity can have health benefits, but the best exercise for you is the one that you'll actually do and enjoy. So, whether it's running, walking, or both, pick what works for you. Choose what you love and keep moving. As we finish up today, I want to point out some of the free resources Sentara Health Plans can offer you. I mentioned the yoga and some of the other programs like strength training that we have available on sentarahealthplans.com/mylifemyplan. These are available to Sentara Health Plans members as well as the general public. And with that, I want to thank you so much for your time today. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Get out and move in the way that feels good to you. Thank you.